All right, this podcast is the last one of 2024, and I'm in my office with my wife and business partner, Rocío Montaño, and Erica Montaño, her sister and our marketing manager, prepared a list of questions. It's actually 2 pages long. We briefly went over it. We didn't really go into any depth. We did not prepare for these answers for these questions, and we're just going to have a dialogue going back and forth, answering the questions that Erica prepared. So here we go. Well, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
You
Thank
wanna
you for
start?
having me.
Yeah, well, anytime. You're the real boss, as I tell everyone. The first question that we have is, what was your first impression when I proposed Ronival to you? It wasn't the name Ronival, but it was the idea of starting a company.
Our own company. It wasn't easy. It was a little bit shocking at the moment, but then I started getting very excited and very comfortable, and I thought it was a great idea.
Why were you nervous?
Because, all my life I worked for other people. I worked for other companies, and my career and my whole career was working for someone else. And actually I was very successful and I was very happy with that. I never thought about having our own company or my own company. That came when we met.
Right. And so for those that don't know, what were you doing before we
I was working in the hotel industry,
But
timeshare and hotel industry. So I was, several positions in the hotel business, but when I ended my career, when we got married, I was operations manager in Hacienda del Mar, which is timeshare. So I did everything we do now, just in a hotel setting.
how many rooms were there when you left?
If I remember correctly, 700.
700. And that's everything from maintenance, landscaping.
Housekeeping, reception, front desk, bellmans, everything. We had to do with every department, including timeshare, because this is a timeshare business.
And
So it's an added, another characteristic.
So you dealt with sales.
I did.
So-
We actually did reservations as well for the timeshare, like hotel reservations, but in the hotel area.
So in essence, Ronival is very similar because there's sales, there's the operations, there's
There's
rentals.
reservations, there is concierge, there is, the operations, like getting the houses ready, housekeeping, maintenance. Yeah, it's very, very similar.
That was the first question. That was really easy. What was the most surprising thing you learned about working with your spouse in a business setting? Oh my God. So we both answer that one. I guess I'll go first. What was the most surprising thing you learned? I'll be honest that when you were working in the hotel, I knew you had a very important position because everyone would stop what they were doing and say hi to you when you would walk in. And remember when I first moved here, before I moved here, we only had one car, and I would drive you to the hotel to work every day, and everyone would wave at me. I felt like I was an important person because I was married to you. And then certain benefits you get as an executive at the hotel, I got those similar benefits. And you always told me that you had a very important position, and it was 2010 we started Ronival, but you left the hotel in 2007.
That's correct.
So there was 3 years where I remember when you left the hotel, it was a big, big decision to make after being there for over 10 years and helping me in the real estate business.
And actually, that was the first idea. The first idea was not that I was going to do property management. The first idea is that we wanted to travel a little bit more, even though I had a lot of vacations in the hotel, but we wanted to be a little bit more free, had more freedom. So we started, we said, okay, let's do that. And I will be coming to help you in real estate. And I did for a while. I was the ISA. I was the person.
This was the funniest.
And this
Can I tell the story?
This is funny.
Because her name Rocío, but she had to change her name to Rose because no one understood her name. And so everyone would say, what's your name? And she just said, You got so frustrated. You said, "My name's Rose," and so people would understand.
Not only that, like people didn't understand my English, no? So it was hard. It was hard, but I was happy, and that was the first decision.
I'm sorry. What did you say?
Very funny. So, but the question is, what was the most surprising thing?
Okay, so for me, so to finish that is how smart you are. Really, I learned that very quickly because before, like you were saying, doing property management, it was you were going to learn to be a sales agent. And I'm a licensed real estate agent broker in the state of Illinois. So I had the textbook and all the quizzes. And do you remember taking those?
Yeah.
And you actually did better than I did on the quizzes. And I went to university and I studied real estate and I was already licensed. But that quickly changed because you never did anything in sales. You did some phone calls, right? An ISA. But the progression of the business getting into property management, it was a need that we had to fulfill.
To fulfill.
So that was my biggest surprise.
Thank you. I didn't remember. So for me, and I'm gonna be very honest too, it's how hard it is. How hard it is to work with your husband. It is not easy. It's because you get into like the routine and you get into like all the time working, almost 24/7, and then our relationship basically became work. Work in the office, work at home, work in vacations, work 24/7. And if we were not working, we were talking about work. So I think that was very difficult. And I think what I learned a lot is that with the love that we have each other, we can accomplish many things. So we just had to set rules, and those rules actually remain until now.
I didn't tell you yesterday I had a coaching session with Tom Ferry, and he was telling me, he made a statement. He said, if I were to ask my wife, or you were to ask my wife, and I were to ask your wife, what is it that they would say the same thing? We work too much. And it's like, where's the turnoff? And that's something that I had to be very conscious and aware of and work the most in. It's still hard for me.
Well, I'm a firm believer that everything in life had to have a balance. So either is your personal life, it is work, and work is never. It doesn't have to be fought, or it doesn't have to be against being happy. So you can do and accomplish both, but for everything you have to have a balance. So that's what I think. That's my answer. It's typical.
Next question. What inspired you both to take the leap into entrepreneurship and start Ronival in 2010?
I think that's a question for you.
So for me, it was, not always been an entrepreneur, but when I made the transition into real estate in 2002, it was head first. I started in IT consulting, and I did that for 5 years in corporate America. And truth be told, I wasn't good at it. And my employers caught on to the fact that I wasn't good at it. I could only be a nice person for 5 years, and then I was fired, and that was in the beginning of 2002. You and I met in March of 2001, and it was the support of a friend and a former classmate that I started my own company in the United States, which is a company we still have that works with Ronival and our other Mexican companies. And that was a bug that just never went away. So when I came here, met you, and I moved here, it was always in the back of my mind, maybe I should start my own company. And we not only have started a real estate company together, but we did food and beverage, catering, and that's always been something for me that was inspired before I moved to Cabo. So it was something that was born from being fired from my corporate job. So that's what inspired me. And seeing so much opportunity here in Cabo and all throughout Baja, it was, I think, a wise decision.
Well, if I must say something about that, it's how fearless you are. you have no fear. And that's very, it's incredible and also very scary at the same time for me, because there is no fear and you have an idea and you just go for it. So that's kind of how Ronival was born, and I'm super happy about it. And then, as you said, easily it progressed into property management, because you were selling and you were saying you were doing a great job, and then your clients were like, now what I do in my house? Who do I, I have bad experience with this person and this person and this person, and then that's how the first house started. No?
Was the first house Mark Jean in
I think so.
Cabo Real?
Yeah. And then Mr. Jim Greenwell.
Yeah, and Jim. Oh my gosh.
Our dear clients that we absolutely love.
Yeah, and it's funny because in our job, you end up becoming friends with a lot of your clients. And I remember in the first, I would say 5 years, it was very manageable. And if I would say one of the things I struggled with in the second decade is the disconnect we have with our clients. It's impossible. It's absolutely impossible.
We're still trying, and we're still doing events, and we're still like reaching out, and every year we send gifts for like special occasions, and when they arrive, we always have a touch. So, it has been a little more challenging, but I think we are making it.
I think it's like in everything in our business, it has to be, number one, intentional, and it needs to be organized in the team to execute on the plan. And so it's as simple as that in terms of keeping in touch with your past clients that are, many of them are our friends. So
Yeah.
next question. Can you share a memorable moment from the early days of Ronival that makes you smile?
Well, to me, it was the fact that you said I was someone important in my job. I had like a lot of people under me, and they used to call me Señorita Montaño. So when we start working by ourselves and we start doing it from a bedroom in our house, right? So I was everything to me. So I was my own assistant. I had to do my coffee. I had to do So that still makes it smile, because I did absolutely everything at the beginning, and every single position that is now fulfilled by an incredible team, and they know much better things that I did. Like I cannot go now and do better the job that Ana Treyes does in operation, or Barbie in vacation rental, or anybody in the company. Definitely. So I did absolutely everything. So that's the most memorable. I remember thinking to myself, I need to get up, and I used to joke with myself like, "Can you give me a coffee?" And then I did my own coffee. Or like, "Can you please send a fax?" We used to send faxes still in that time, I think. So that's funny. That's funny.
That's very interesting. That definitely makes me smile, and I tell this story fairly often. How much the same as you, I did everything, and I don't know if you remember in the first house we lived in that before I moved. So we bought a house together before we were married, and I moved here 20 years ago. So it was December 26th, 2004. And before that year of 2004, we bought our first house together. And do you remember you had made for me a desk?
Yes.
And it sat in the corner of our bedroom?
That was a surprise. One of the times that he came on vacations, because you were still commuting with, coming and going with, in Chicago. So I decided I did a desk and put everything like pencils and all that.
Super nice. And it was a handmade desk, and no longer we have the desk, but so what makes me smile is that desk is where everything started. So this was in 2005, 2006, 2007. I remember, this is what makes me smile, is starting the website of loscabosagent.com. And at that time, I was still working at Coldwell Banker just as an agent, and I was doing a lot of research on the internet, and one of the things was start a website. And I was like, what kind of website? You need a URL. So I tried to find one that wasn't taken. It wasn't taken, and then I bought it, and then I started building the website on my own. And I remember many nights I would be working very late and doing things on the website or sending emails. And that is like priceless. That puts a smile on my face.
And like we have been progressing, let's say upgrade. So that was the first office, maybe for both of us, because when you were not there, I was using it. And then we moved into another room in the house, which that was the office. And then we built an office, no, which is Vicente Cortez, he still works with us in many projects, and he's an amazing builder. He did that office for us. And then there was a moment that we were not enough. It wasn't enough. And then we moved into Los Patios office.
Yep.
And then we
Got a
continued.
second office, then we got a third office,
there.
and then
And now we have
11
offices.
11 offices, and yeah, 11 offices. Next question. During the Great Recession, so 2008 to, let's say, 2011, 12, how did we keep our spirits up and motivate each other to push through tough times?
Wow.
I think what we can do, and the second question related, what strategies do we implement that help Ronival not just survive, but thrive through challenging market conditions? I know that was a very tough time for us because it was 2008, 2009. That's when you first left the hotel. And there was a lot of regret on your part. Like,
Not only that, I was pregnant.
you were pregnant in 2008,
With
2009. Yeah.
Yes.
And so it was us, you didn't have your income. You were starting something new, and sales was like zero.
We had a big debt too.
So at that time, I was still operating my business in Chicago, which was real estate and real estate mortgages. We had a condo in Chicago, and I sold and bought a house, and I was doing a remodel project on the house in Chicago. And my brother Brent, who now lives and works for us at Ronival, was living in that house and was living in the condo prior. So we had a lot of monthly expenses in Chicago and then a lot of debt. And then you were pregnant. And the story that I've told a couple times that I think is appropriate, that will paint a picture, is us walking our dogs one afternoon behind the house. You were pregnant, and I told you that you realize that we're $200,000 in debt, and we're not making money, and we need to do something like serious. And this was, I think, in 2000. Well, you were pregnant, 2009, and so I remember you crying, and I remember saying, "Don't worry, like I got this." And I just focused and I worked super hard. And I remember that Christmas was actually a good Christmas. It was 6 months later. Sienna had been born, and our friends, I remember this because Michael and Rona had visited us, our friends from Chicago, and it was just before Christmas. We had a puppy, and we had Christmas presents. And that to me was like, wow.
I remember the exact same story. I remember the same. I remember like thinking, what did I do? Because I had just recently quit my very steady job, and a job that actually I absolutely love. Every single day that I went to work, I loved it. So it was hard. It was hard, but I felt very, very strong in trusting you. I felt very confident that you can. You said you got it, so I'm like, okay, he has it. He's got it. So, yeah, same story.
So that was the first hardship and challenge.
So the question, and I think that's connected to the second question, it's how do we do? So what strategies did we implement that helped Ronival to survive and thrive during challenging conditions? Because 2009 was not only the only time that we have had challenges.
Right.
This past year was a little challenge.
I mean, 2020 was challenging, early pandemic. I remember us thinking, do we need to fire people, right? 2020.
And we didn't. And
No,
we
didn't
didn't.
fire one person.
No, and we support the nomina, and we paid, and we had a little, like, probably one nomina that we paid a little bit lower than it was, but after that we continue, and we did great, because I really think that what makes us strong is the people. And if I say that, if I answer this question, what we have implementing, it's our team. Our team is very strong, and they carry us through all, like, hard times, and then work harder than ever. When you are in these situations, there is no other exit would work, and do it very smart, and continue thinking that things are going to be great, and work.
Yeah, and that's what we did in 2020. And sure enough, fortunately, it was like literally from one month to the other, Mexico was the one country that had open borders for travel. And we had so much business.
And we had an amazing year.
Right? Yeah. And that continued for 2020, 21, 22, 23. Now 2024 hits, and by all accounts, 2024 will be an amazing year. But it wasn't so amazing for us as a company. And the reason being is we have so much overhead. We're such a big company.
And I don't think it's only us. I think all the markets struggle, like in property management, because we have talked to other companies in property management and real estate also. So we all struggle, but on all, we are still here, and we're strong, and we are a great team.
Well, it's been a lot of different factors. It was going back to normalcy. So less people were traveling. They were able to go to other countries than Mexico. They were staying local within the country of the US and Canada, where the majority of our clients come from. And there's also been a lot of construction. So for vacation rentals, there's a lot of options. Hotels have become more competitive in their offerings to keep the guests with them. And on sales have declined. We've had 30% less sales, but we have more agents in our marketplace than ever. So that, along with the Mexican peso to the US dollar, was devalued by 20% 18 months ago. Those were challenges, but things have been looking more and more positive going into 2025. And like you said, I mean, we're strong. We're here. We're not going anywhere. And a big part of that is the team, so from our marketing, our media, our accounting, our property managers, our vacation rental team, our concierge, our sales agents, our management, our assistants, our call center, it's just incredible. And then our contractors, our attorneys, our accountants, like we have so much like the dream team that surrounds us, that it also makes it when you're not making money or you're making less money, that you look around you and you're like, okay, this is not the only reason why we do this, is to make money, is to provide for all the people that are around us.
And their families.
And all their families, right? Okay, let's go on to, wow, this podcast is going long. I'm going to have to cut it right here and wait till next week as Rocío and I discuss the second half of our really lengthy discussion, Q&A with Rocío and Nick. Until then, bye for now.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Nick Fong Podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and the YouTube channel at youtube.com/Ronival Real Estate, and follow Nick on Instagram at NickFong_Ronival. Ready to find your Baja dream home? Check out the latest property listings at Ronival.com or findmexicohouses.com. Hasta luego.